Hi, I'm Margaret Levi. I'm Director of the Center for Advanced Study in Behavioral Sciences, Professor of Political Science, and Senior Fellow at the Woods Institute for the Environment, all at Stanford. I was not in Berlin when the Berlin Wall fell. I was probably in Seattle, but I traveled a lot then, so I'm not exactly sure. I know I was glued to the television set watching every moment of that amazing historical experience. I returned to Berlin 6 months later and have periodically come back in order to really see how the city has changed as the wall has totally disappeared, as new neighborhoods are built, as new relationships are built. And my Breaking the Wall project is also about rebuilding community, building an expanded community of fate that is inclusive and robust. What is not new about my research is that we've known for a long time that governments shape behavior. They provide laws and enforcement practices that punish those who engage in crime, who evade taxes. Tax incentives are a way in which, at least in my country, we are encouraged to make charitable contributions. The problem is that is all based on a problematic, from my perspective, assumption about human beings. That we are narrowly self-interested and individualistic, who care mostly or almost entirely about our material well-being, our safety and security. And of course we do care about those things. But what's new in my research is that I have demonstrated that we can design institutional arrangements and governance that evoke from people actions, often costly actions, in the interest of others, distant others perhaps, and strangers who can never reciprocate and who we do not expect reciprocity. In other words, we can build institutional arrangements that recognize that we are social beings with ethical commitments and other concerns. When we participate in demonstrations for the planet or for racial justice, especially in the period of the pandemic, when we voluntarily agree to taxes that for schools or for social insurance or for unemployment benefits, even when we don't directly benefit, we are helping to build an expanded community of fate, one that recognizes that our destinies and those of our children and descendants' destinies are entwined and enmeshed with a large world of others, that we're part of a much bigger society. If we can create these kinds of institutional arrangements that have these consequences, there will be some very important results. We'll be able to renovate democracy so that it is respectful and committed to all who are within it. We may be able to save the planet. We may be able to correct some of the flaws of our current capitalist economies. What would my parents think of these ideas? Well, frankly, they would laugh if they were still with us. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Isn't that what we taught you to do? And there's the rub. We live in a political economic framework that has structured our behavior so that we tend to act and believe it is right to act in our narrow self-interest. My argument about an expanded community fate is part of a larger project to generate and create a new moral political economic framework that makes its values explicit and that restructures our societies so that we are promoting the well-being of the planet and all the people on it. What keeps me up at night is the urgency of acting to change our structures and our systems. We've known about the cracks for a long time. The COVID pandemic has only made them more apparent, but now is the time to act if we actually want to save democracy, renovate capitalism, and promote a just and equitable society. You asked what I wanted to be as a child. Well, first of all, I wanted to grow up. I lived in the shadow of the Holocaust and feared it would come to the United States. I lived in the period of nuclear threat and remember the alarm bells going off in the school, and we had to duck under our desks. My aspirations changed when I became a youth or a teenager. Then I wanted to be a political activist and an art collector. I was not at the Berlin Wall, but I was in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial when Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. I continue to share that dream for a better society for all of us. And I've become an art collector.